Hi, this is Green Philosophy. Today I'm going to be sharing a dramatic reading of Will Zoran Mamdani Empower or Betray the Working Class? This is from the Chris Hedges report. Zoran Mamdani's emphatic victory in New York City's Democratic mayoral primary has shaken the core of American politics. A self-described democratic socialist, Mamdani ran a campaign centered around affordability, as well as relentless denunciation of the genocide in Gaza. Mamdani drew the ire of Zionists, right-wingers, and the billionaire class, not only in New York City, but across the country, including calls for his deportation by Congressman Andy Ogles and subsequent slander by Donald Trump. Former Seattle City Council member Kshama Sawant, who is now running for Washington State's 9th Congressional District, weighs in on her fellow Democratic Socialist journey on this episode of the Chris Hedges Report. Sawant has been a standout figure for working class representation, winning a $15 minimum wage in Seattle during her city council tenure, as well as the Amazon tax, which helped fund affordable housing. She says Mamdani's victory should be celebrated, especially because it shows the Zionist lobby can be defeated, not just in the US, but in a state home to the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. Despite this encouraging repudiation of the billionaire class in the wealthiest city in America, Sawant emphasizes the need to continue the fight and make sure Mamdani sticks to his original promises. If you don't understand that careerism is one of the death knells of winning anything substantial for the working class, then you will sell out even those whose good intentions, because they will make it about yourself, and you will immediately get the memo that in order to fight for working people, you will need to be in battle mode every single day when you enter City Hall. Mamdani's alignment with the Democratic Party is concerning, according to Sawant, pointing to a pattern in which groundbreaking campaigns, like those of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders, have fallen short of delivering promises for working class people once in office. At the end of the day, the Democratic Party is a party of capitalism itself, Sawant asserts. The working class loses out more and more and is subjected to more and more misery with every passing decade that you're not going to stand up for working people. So far, Mamdani's campaign has made strides to inspire the American working class. It's a real boost of confidence for working class people nationally to see that, yes, working people will fight alongside you if you put forward demands that make a huge difference in their lives and which reflect their anger. Their just anger at Wall Street billionaires. Hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman, enraged by Zoran Mamdani's securing an overwhelming majority to become the Democratic Party's nominee to run for mayor of New York City, said he and his wealthy associates will pour hundreds of millions of dollars into the candidacy of anyone willing to run against Mamdani in the general election. Ackman, who supports Donald Trump, added that he already has an unnamed candidate that he is ready to bankroll. Major Democratic donors, who poured tens of millions into a super PAC to support the former governor Andrew Cuomo in his run for mayor, are meeting to decide if they will fund an independent run by Cuomo in November or back the unpopular incumbent crook, emphasis added by me, Mayor Eric Adams, who is running as an independent. Mamdani's grassroots campaign, Cuomo's campaign, outspent him 20-1, centered around raising the minimum wage, tax hikes on businesses and the rich, creating city-owned grocery stores, making city bus service free, and imposing a rent freeze for stabilized tenants. The victory by the self-described Democratic Socialist, who was mercilessly smeared for his denunciation of the genocide in Gaza and promised to honor the arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu if he appeared in New York City, has sent shockwaves through the ruling billionaire class and the Democratic Party establishment that supported Cuomo. While Mamdani it was endorsed by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Nydia Velázquez, who serve in the state's congressional delegate, as well as Bernie Sanders, they were singular exceptions. The hierarchy of the party has either remained silent since Mamdani's victory or been openly antagonistic. New York Senator Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leaders of the Senate and the House, refused to back Mamdani's candidacy. New York Rep. Laura Gillen, speaking for many in the party, called Mamdani, quote, the absolute wrong choice for New York, end quote. Democrats, along with their major donors, can be counted on the attempt to sabotage Mamdani's campaign, just as it did in the campaign of Bernie Sanders when he sought the presidential nomination. It remains, it seems, impervious to reform. What does this election portend? What does it mean for the future of the Democratic Party? Is Mamdani's victory a sign that there are growing cracks in the edifice of the party? Or will it drive the party further to the right and see it destroy the candidacies of those who seek to address the domination of our political system by the billionaire class and punishing social inequality? Chris Hedges brought Kshama Sawant. She is a leader for Workers Strike Back and Revolutionary Workers. As a city council member, she battled against the established Democratic Party leadership and the city of Seattle's oligarchs who poured millions into campaigns to defeat her, including an unsuccessful effort to oust her in a recall vote. Amazon alone spent over $3 million to defeat her run for office in 2019. Sawant helped lead the fight in 2014 that made Seattle the first American city to mandate a $15 an hour minimum wage. Following a 3-year struggle against one of the richest men in the world, Jeff Bezos, and his political establishment, she and her allies pushed through a tax on big business that increased city revenues by an estimated $210 to $240 million a year. She was part of the movement that led to Seattle's successful ban on school year evictions of school children, their families, and school employees. She was one of the sponsors of a bill that protects tenants from being evicted at the end of their, quote, term leases, requiring landlords to provide tenants with the right to renew their leases and prohibiting landlords from evicting tenants for non-payment of rent if the rent was due to the COVID-19 civil emergency and the renter could not pay due to financial hardship. So let's begin with Mamdani's victory. What do you think it means? And the Democratic Party's response. I just want to add that when Sawant was on the city council, she spent most of her time battling the Democratic Party establishment. All right, so Kshama Sawant says, all of the time actually, the Democrats on the city council here in Seattle opposed every single progressive measure that Sawant's office fought for. But yeah, Mamdani's primary election victory in the Democratic Party in New York City for the mayoral election is first and foremost a stinging rebuke of the Zionist lobby. It shows that it is possible to defeat the Zionist lobby and it is possible to win. In fact, Hedges mentioned in his introduction that Sawant is running for Congress right now. Sawant is running against the genocidal, warmongering Democrat, Adam Smith, who voted for the genocide repeatedly to send tens of billions of dollars to the Israeli state for the genocide. Adam Smith also voted for the war in Iraq back in 2002. Adam Smith voted to create ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Adam Smith was bankrolled by the Zionist lobby. In last year's election, AIPAC was his top contributor. He was also backed by dystopian corporations like Palantir, which profit from war and mass slaughter. And so this primary victory of Mamdani actually has injected huge confidence in the thousands of people who are supporting the campaign here. Many people have messaged Sawant personally saying, I'm so excited about Mamdani's victory because it shows that you can defeat the Zionist lobby. Sawant thinks, first and foremost, we have to recognize what a huge victory that is. It's also, given how relentlessly Mamdani has campaigned using his working class demands, it's also a real boost to confidence for working people nationally to see that yes, working people will fight alongside you if you put forward demands that make a huge difference in their lives and which reflect their anger, their just anger at the Wall Street billionaires. I mean, Mamdani's campaign has called for a $30 an hour minimum wage, for a rent freeze, for free transit, for fully funded childcare. And so these are things that working people need. And so, if a campaign can succeed on that basis, it shows that working people are willing to push forward on those demands. It's also, I have to say, a resounding rebuke to the union leaders, not the rank and file, but the union leaders who endorsed Cuomo in the primary. I mean, can you imagine what kind of union leader do you have to be to endorse someone who's so discredited that he's even too much of a hot potato for most of the Democrats to maintain their own credibility? They don't even want to touch Cuomo because he has 15,000 COVID deaths on his hands. Cuomo has all kinds of other corruption charges. He has been accused by at least a dozen, probably 13 women, of sexual harassment, and so it's just mind-boggling, although not surprising. It's just incredible that the leaders of UFCW, United Food and Commercial Workers, or RWDSU, Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, or the Teamsters of SEIU, Service Employees International Union, all of these major unions, the carpenters, all of them supporting Cuomo. So I think they have really been put to shame. It's really important to see that. For example, SEIU leaders have already now said they're endorsing Mamdani, but it really exposes the unholy ties of the labor leadership with the Democratic establishment. Sawant thinks that the question is not, is this a real confirmation of the kind of political demands we need to put forward, and that the opposition to the genocide and the demand to end the genocide, should that be front and center of election campaigns in the coming year? No, that's not a question. This has shown that that's actually what we should be doing. The outstanding question here is, what will it take to win any of these demands? And that's where I think we have to conduct a lot of examination. I think the experience that Sawant had on the Seattle City Council with her fellow socialists and her experience in the City Council office for a decade in Seattle. What it took for Sawant to win the historic victories, many of which Chris Hedges enumerated, it took what I would call a fighting strategy. What does a fighting strategy mean? A fighting strategy, first and foremost, means that you understand that capitalism is a zero-sum game. You cannot hope to win any substantial victories. I'm not talking about crumbs, but substantial reforms in the interest of the working class by thinking that you're going to sweet talk the billionaires into agreement with you. It also requires understanding that the Democrats and the Republicans, despite their differences, they both represent the interests of the billionaires of capitalism. And so you're not going to sweet talk them either. You don't go into the halls of office by thinking that they are your colleagues and that you're going to have good conversations with them and reach some sort of agreement with them. No, you have to understand that this is posed as an adversarial task by definition. Working people don't take it as adversarial. Capitalism is adversarial towards the working class. The only question is, are we going to fight back, or are we going to roll over and die? And so again, and again, and again, what we saw in Seattle was a Democratic Party carrying water for the big business entities, for corporations like Amazon and Starbucks, for the Chamber of Commerce, for corporate landlords. And for us to win any of these victories that Sawant won, first and foremost, it had to be clear that all working people alongside me had to be clear that this is class war. The only way we win is by using the office to build mass movements, and mass movements not just to come to City Hall and beg the Democrats to do the right thing, but mass movements that are defiant in character, that demand that unless you do this, we are going to vote you out of office. We are going to throw you out of office. So that adversarial character is fundamental to winning something like the victory they won on the minimum wage, That is the highest wage in the nation because part of the battle they waged when they fought for $15 an hour was to win inflation increases. The Democrats fought Sawant viciously on that. Sawant was still able to prevail. Why? Sawant launched the 15 Now movement in Seattle. It mobilized Seattle's working class in thousands, and so many of them were involved in Sawant's action conferences. It was a democratically organized movement where the rank and file of the movement had the say in strategic decisions. They literally had debates and voting. It took the strength of the mass of the working class to win not only the nation's first $15 minimum wage, but also inflation increases. That's why Seattle's minimum wage today is the highest in the nation at $20.76. Sawant would say that for the working class to win in New York City, they will need to take a similar approach. The question is not, can Mamdani win through a strategy of playing nice with billionaires? No, that's not the question. You can't win that way. All of history shows that. The question is, will Mamdani do what Sawant did in Seattle in order to win similar victories in New York City? This has been the first half of will Zoran Mamdani empower or betray the working class with Sawant from the Chris Hedges report. You can read it on his Substack. I look forward to your questions and comments.